to Coffee and the Weather Map with Jeff. It is Saturday, August 23rd, 2025. I'm doing one this morning because I forgot to do one on Thursday, so hey, you get an extra one on the weekend. All right, we'll start off. I got these a little out of order, but it's not terrible here. The surface map here at right around 7 o'clock this morning showed a front that's moving through lower Michigan currently, and the Upper Peninsula as well, and then stretches down into the mid-Mississippi Valley. We'll take a look at the overall national look here in a bit. There's a line of showers that are along it. Came through this morning right around 6 o'clock. I had to walk in the rain for a short bit. Otherwise, there's a reinforcing cold shot that's just up there with a second front. There's not a lot of precipitation with it, but at this point, it is cooling things off as you see temperatures go from the 70s down here with this system to the 60s to the 50s. So we'll see what happens here in the next couple of days. It will affect northern Michigan, and something I alluded to in the other day, we're going to end up with something similar. We are going to end up with lake effect rain showers, it looks like. All right, looking at the upper air pattern, we currently have the slow meandering area of low pressure that's been going through southern part of Canada. Well, it's now into northern Ontario. It has a decent little jet streak. Of course, we're not on the right rear quadrant, which is this section here over the Dakotas, which is most favorable for the most uplift. Also, the left front quadrant is up there in northern Ontario. So again, we're not in the best for that. So there hasn't been a whole lot of activity with this front, and we'll take a look at the SPC and WPC ideas here in the next couple of minutes. Otherwise, as I alluded to, WPC had these analyzed slightly differently at 5 a.m. They've got two different low pressure systems, and I guess you could make an argument for that with two different cold fronts, and they are all kind of coming in. Eventually, the one behind it will catch up since it is colder, denser, and it's probably moving faster. As you go further out with the southern front, it actually gets into Kansas, or it looks like it's part of it is being driven by the rain cooling, not necessarily a mesoscale complex of thunderstorms, but something in there that's helping to push that part of the cold front out. And then it keeps going into the Rocky Mountains, where it kind of gets hung up almost right along the Continental Divide. Looking down in South Texas, we do have it is a front. It wasn't a cold front by any stretch of the imagination. Temperatures this morning are still in the mid-70s, with dew points in the lower to mid-70s across the area. The big thing is that there are thunderstorms, again, offshore. They moved in for a while. They're going to probably move in for a while later on. But you've got a distinct temperature difference there with 80 to 85 just offshore and 70 to 75 inland. That will become more of a sea breeze front later on today. That front moves all the way off along the Gulf Coast and then out over the Atlantic, where it gets lost out in the middle of the sea. Aaron is, I believe, extratropical, and I think I do have a satellite shot here coming up, but we'll talk about the tropics quickly here. We do have that red section there. That is 99L, I believe, and it is expected to develop into something here later today or tomorrow. It's not expected to make any landfall. In fact, it's barely, at least within its development cone, is barely touching Bermuda. So my guess is that if it were to develop, unless it's on the very left side of this with this one, it's probably going to go straight north and curve off out to sea. There are some hints that it could become a hurricane at some point, but eventually it is going to go over some less favorable water. So we'll see what it can do, especially once it gets out there where Aaron did and gets sheared apart. 90L, so we restart everything. It always starts with a 9. I'm not sure. I don't remember the reasoning for it. There is a reason that they have those. But 90L, as we start all over again here, starting with 0, is expected to develop here. Well, it might develop. The further it goes to the west, the less likely it is, because eventually it does get into some very unfavorable conditions, wind shear wise. Temperatures are obvious for the water, obviously very good, but they're considering that will keep on moving. So most of the models show that it wasn't really expected to do a whole lot. I think yesterday when I looked at it, it was barely to a depression sort of idea, never getting to tropical storm force on any of the ensemble members. All right. Oh, I know there's something that I was forgetting. I kind of ran through that and almost forgot to do the radar. You can kind of see up here, that's the rain showers that kind of move through. And then here's the Gulf look right now. We can put the Gulf into motion for the thunderstorms. You can see most of it is offshore. Here's Port Aransas. So most of the thunderstorms are out there and along the coast. All right, so looking at the SPC and WPC Outlooks, I'm using EverythingWeather here this morning, and I got a pro account with Corey. I paid for that, so but I will say it does have a lot of the features that I really like in it, and can get almost everything out of this one app now, except for model data. I'm sure he's working on that somehow. Anyway, there we are in West Michigan, and most of the lower peninsula is expected to have some sort of thunderstorms with the cold fronts going through. We, however, have gotten through that part of it. My guess is that if thunderstorms don't happen within the next couple of hours, we'll have more. That line of showers will be the main clearing line, and we'll see what happens with that secondary front. But you can see that slice there of the western part of the lower peninsula, from the Leelanau Peninsula all the way down here to about Muskegon, that are expected to have any thunderstorms. Or not expected to have any thunderstorms. It's over to the eastern side of the state where we expect all that. Everything here are general thunderstorms except for right here in the middle of Colorado, and we can just pull that up. There's a marginal risk for SPC, and there's also in that same area a marginal risk for excessive heavy rain out there. That's mostly what these darker greens and yellows are for. Are the marginal and slight risks, which are in Georgia and there in Colorado and New Mexico, where there's expected to be excessive heavy rain. Otherwise, general thunderstorms across the region. South Texas, that includes you for all that, and I've already talked about Michigan. Moving on to day 2, much of the same. We have general thunder with excessive heavy rain in the northern Appalachian Mountains. As that front kind of moves off, we start to get those thunderstorms that are along the coast could bring some excessive heavy rain there to North Carolina, and then also again in Florida. We have another area of excessive heavy rain, a slight risk there for Kansas and Colorado, and a slight risk, or a marginal risk, I'm sorry, for severe thunderstorms there in Colorado and western Kansas. There's also another slight risk for excessive heavy rain there in Utah and Arizona. And then looking at day 3, not much has changed on that as well. We do get out of the thunderstorms here in Michigan, at least the chances for them. We turn into something else instead. But there is chance thunder up there in New England, and then down along the southern Atlantic seaboard, all the way into across the Gulf Coast. I was looking at the extended forecast for South Texas, and every day has scattered showers and thunderstorms. Not all in the same place at all the time. Sometimes there's more up by the Victoria Crossroads, which is slightly climatologically different than the rest of South Texas. There's also some that will fire up there in the coastal plains. Might get into the brush country. It's kind of that type of a pattern right now. Otherwise, out here in the Midwest and the plains, southern to central plains, we still have a slight risk of excessive heavy rain with these thunderstorms that are out there, and a marginal risk for the rest of the West. Okay, I did the tropical already, so that brings us to our local forecast. So for South Texas, temperatures are slightly cooler. Heat indices are still expected to be 100 to 106 today. Partly cloudy. There is isolated scattered thunderstorms. I would say that most of the thunderstorms would be concentrated there along the eastern part of the forecast area, mainly along the beaches. So you need to be aware of that, especially with all the thunderstorms this morning that are just offshore. But temperatures will run from the mid 80s all the way up to right around 100 degrees. As we look at the South Texas beachcast, in the upper 80s, winds will be out of the north at around 5 miles an hour. It wouldn't be too bad if it wasn't for the fact that we have isolated to scattered thunderstorms, but there is a low risk of rip currents, and wave heights will be around 1 foot. In northern Michigan, the big thing will be just how the temperatures cool off. There is going to be a moderate swim risk here today and tomorrow across most of Lake Michigan. Lake Huron, Sunday, it's probably not quite as bad. The winds will pick up enough that we're going to get 2 to 3 foot waves, and then portions of it could even be higher, down like 3 to 5 foot here along West Michigan, and that could up the amount. Take a look at our high temperatures for today. In Michigan, we're looking at around 70 to the lower 80s as we get into the southeastern part of the forecast of the forecast area. Well, yes, of the lower peninsula. And then after the cold front goes through, this is really where you're gonna notice the temperature change. In northern Michigan, we're looking at 60 to, well, through the 60s. You could probably say that there's going to be some 60s right along the lake shore in some of those areas, right around 60. Would not be surprising. All right, now we have lower to mid 60s all the way up to the upper 60s to almost 70 as you get here into places like near Gladwin and Skidway Lake along I-75 and 127. Further south, as you go into the southern lower Michigan, mainly right around 70 degrees until you're getting closer to the Indiana border and the Ohio border, and you're getting into the mid 70s. And then for Monday, generally 60s all the way through the lower peninsula. You're looking at right around 60 degrees up in northern lower. You're looking at areas down in southern lower along the borders. They're right around 70 degrees with 60s almost everywhere else. And as I alluded to earlier, at least for today. No real big threat along most of Lake Huron, except for up there along the eastern UP. Lake Michigan is a different story, though. The wind's coming out of the west or northwest. Got moderate risks there in northern Michigan. We do have a high risk of rip currents along that section in West Michigan, roughly from about just a little north of Ludington, looks like Manistee, all the way down to about South Haven, and then moderate all the way down to the Chicago area. And with that, thanks for listening. If you like it, subscribe, give me a thumbs up on the various platforms. You can find me on YouTube, X, Facebook, and Instagram. And if you have a question, leave it in the comments. Thanks.